I'm Karen, a 37-year-old childless working housewife. Today marks our 5th wedding anniversary, and it also happens to be my husband James's birthday, who is the same age as me. James is a handsome salesman at a well-known company, apparently quite successful, but this means he often has to work overtime and attend business dinners, which has led to us not spending much time together. We had a simple weekday wedding attended by a few family members and friends due to our busy schedules and my weekend work, as per James's strong desire. So for our anniversary and his birthday, I asked him to come home early, and I took a half day off work. I bought his favorite Wagyu steak, wine, cake, and such from the department store's food market and set the table stylishly at home. I was waiting for James to come home. Despite my insistence, he didn't come home. I received a single email saying an emergency came up at work and he had to stay at the office overnight. I was disappointed, but if it's work, it can't be helped. However, I felt a bit doubtful since he said he wasn't that busy with work lately. I cleaned up the meal and went to bed. The next morning, I went to work as usual, texted him, but got no read confirmation. Calls went unanswered as well. Worried, I called his company and was shocked to learn that James had resigned the day before yesterday and was apparently set to start at a company in the neighboring state. He hadn't mentioned a word about this to me. I rushed back home and saw his shoes at the entrance. Bursting into his room, I found him packing his belongings into a suitcase. "What's going on?" In utter shock, my eyes widened as I asked him. "What, you found out already?" he said with a click of his tongue, handing me the divorce papers. "What do you mean?" I repeated the question in dismay, and with a cold look, James said, "Let's get divorced." "What? Why?" "I'm just sick of it, sick of you not fulfilling your role as a wife. You prioritize work, never cook, laundry once a week, and a dusty house. I don't need a wife like that." "Wait a minute. For the past 2 years, I've been making dinner and waiting for you, but you always said you had already eaten out. That's why I stopped cooking. Still, a wife is supposed to cook and wait. Besides, I started eating out because your cooking is awful." He used to say my cooking was the best when we first got married. Shivering at his cold voice, I argued that when we got married, we agreed that I would do laundry and cleaning on my Wednesdays and Thursdays off, but he retorted, "So what, I should just put up with a dirty house from Friday to Tuesday? That's a joke. What happened to you all of a sudden? I never thought you'd still be working after 5 years of marriage." When I got the offer to be poached, I thought it was a good chance. A good chance for what? For a divorce? Until now, James had never complained about my job or the housework, and there was never any sign of him wanting a divorce. "See, you never realized how unsatisfied I've been. I don't need a wife like that. I've rented an apartment near my new job, so I'm not coming back here." With that said, James pushed past me as I stood in front of the door, grabbed his suitcase, and left the house. Unable to grasp what had just happened, I was left standing there, stunned. A week later, I attended my high school reunion. I wasn't in the mood, but I had already paid the fee, and since I hadn't been in touch with James since then and had been feeling frustrated every day, I thought it might be a good distraction. There, I saw that some classmates were divorced or single mothers, yet they all lived strongly. I had always hoped for improvement in my relationship with James, but on reflection, if we reconciled, I would have to follow him to his new job location. Considering the daily commute, even if it was to a neighboring state, it would be impossible to stay at my current job. And since I had worked for 17 years since junior college and received a decent salary, it would be nearly impossible to earn an equivalent income in the new place. Since James had completely rejected me, I started to think maybe it was better to give up. What made my decision final was a call from James hurrying me to move out. We had been living in a rented apartment, and James was the tenant. The renewal period was coming up, and the real estate agent had contacted James. I told them we'd move out in a month, so dispose of everything by then. "You didn't consult me at all, even though I still live here." When I complained, "The lease is in my name." "I don't need to discuss it with you," he said aggressively. Realizing it was hopeless, I replied, "All right. Then I'll take care of my stuff this weekend or the next. Not just your stuff, throw out everything that's left in my room and the furniture, too." "What?" I snapped at that. "What are you saying? You rented this place when you were single, and most of the furniture has been here since then. Most of the rest, like the appliances, were bought with your credit card. I'll dispose of the furniture and appliances I mainly used, but of course, you are responsible for the rest. After I said that, I hung up. What a petty man, taking only what's important to him and leaving the rest for me to handle. That's when I firmly decided to go through with the divorce. Over the weekend, while organizing the closet, I found myself reminiscing about the many things that have happened since we got married, such happy memories from the past. Among the items, of course, were my own, but there were also many belonging to James. Then, I came across his high school yearbook from his teenage years. I realized that the friends James introduced me to were all from after his university days as I absent-mindedly flipped through his yearbook. That's when I noticed something unexpected. I submitted the divorce papers and reported it to James by text messages. Then, a week later at night, James replied with a picture, but to my astonishment, it was a marriage certificate with another woman. Staring at it in disbelief, James called me. "Did you see it? What does this mean?" "Just what it looks like. I just had a wedding and remarried her." "No way. She's super beautiful, rich, and has a great personality. I was told by such a wonderful woman that she wanted to marry me right after I divorced you." "That's the proof." "Cool, right? So, you were cheating on me while we were married? Unlike you, who has nothing but your job, I'm a popular guy." "Oh, and her father is building us a house on his property, and thanks to his connections, I got a job in her hometown. It's a mid-sized company, but I'm treated like an executive." He seemed eager to brag about remarrying his wealthy mistress, and James's nonchalant response sparked a fury in me. To think he divorced me claiming I was the problem, only to remarry his affair partner. He mentioned they had been seeing each other for over 2 years. They met at a pub he went to with coworkers, where she was one of 4 female patrons at a neighboring table. Apparently, she caught his attention when she helped him clean up his drink that he had accidentally spilled on himself. "Man, she's the same age as you and me, but she looked incredibly beautiful, at least 10 years younger." She quickly wiped down my shirt with her pretty handkerchief. According to James, he took her to a restaurant to say thanks and got to chatting, and it turns out she's a landowner's daughter. She was in an arranged marriage, suggested by her parents, and was having troubles because her husband was cheating on her. She said something like, "If there's something wrong with me, I have to fix it, which is nothing like you." That really got to me. He pursued her aggressively, and they started dating even though she was still married. Isn't it normal to wonder why she'd juggle both men? But love-struck James was oblivious. "A woman's got to support her man, not prioritize work over him like you did. You weren't right for me." "What? You mean you can't stand up for yourself?" I snapped back, and he retorted, "Great, I'm glad I'm rid of a woman like you. Vivian's the best." "Vivian? That's her name?" I remembered something about that name. "You really married her?" "No kidding?" I taunted him, hitting a nerve. "She's from a great family and has the best personality. Look at this elegant beauty," he boasted, sending me their wedding picture just as I expected. Yep, that was her. I couldn't help but burst into laughter. "What's so funny?" "It's proof we're married." "Sure, it's real." I was so amused that I was beyond words. "Stop laughing. We're married, and she's carrying my child." "What? No way." I laughed uncontrollably. "Ah, I get it, you've gone crazy from the shock of losing me." James interpreted my continued laughter in a way that flattered himself. "In 3 months, we're having a girl. She's bound to be a beauty, just like Vivian," he said, absolutely smitten. "Well, even if she looks like you, she'll be pretty," I said, since James has the sweet looks of an idol. He seemed a bit flustered for some reason and hurriedly said, "No, I mean, it's okay, if she doesn't look like me." Hearing that, I burst out laughing again. James snapped, "Go nuts on your own time then," and hung up the phone. He'd understand why I laughed eventually. I looked forward to that. Later, we had some disputes over alimony and property division, but through lawyers, I managed to get a hefty sum from James. Vivian's share of the compensation was also paid by him, not wanting to stress her during pregnancy. After a long silence, 2 years later, I received a desperate message from him. "Please, Karen, I need to talk." Reluctantly, I answered the phone call that followed the message. As I expected, it was about the child he had with Vivian. The kid should look like us, right? Of course, who else would she look like? Yeah, right. Apparently, their 2-year-old daughter didn't resemble the beautiful Vivian at all. She's only about 2, right? She'll change a lot as she grows. I tried to suggest this, but he didn't seem convinced, expecting at least a passing resemblance by now. Well, that's to be expected. James, does she look like you? I asked, stifling laughter. No, she doesn't look like me. But that's okay. It's fine if she doesn't resemble me. Suddenly, he became flustered and raised his voice. He suspected Vivian of cheating and secretly did a DNA test. The results confirmed that the child was indeed related to both James and Vivian. So, she's definitely your kid. I tried to end the conversation there, but James persisted. Hey, when I told you 2 years ago over the phone that Vivian was pregnant, you laughed a lot. Do you know something? He was sharp to remember that. Well, maybe. Actually, Vivian was from the same high school as me and we were in the same year. We were in different classes for 3 years, so I didn't know much about her, but she was definitely a landowner's daughter, known to be haughty and of a nasty character. About 2 years ago, at a class reunion, she became a topic of conversation, and the topic was cosmetic surgery. Vivian used to be concerned about her single eyelids, small eyes, button nose, and slightly receding chin, and after graduating high school, she went all the way to New York to have her face redone several times at a renowned clinic. I didn't get to see her at the reunion, but later a friend sent me before and after photos of Vivian's surgery. The level of cosmetic surgery in the US is really something. When I told this to James, of course, he didn't believe it at first, but then he realized he had never seen any childhood or yearbook photos from her, and was shocked. Was I being deceived? Damn it. All the while, she had this innocent look on her face, but in reality, she was the one who cheated several times before our relationship and got divorced. And I'm the one getting demands for alimony from several wives. I'm gonna confront Vivian. Maybe you shouldn't do that? Why not? Because, don't you think your daughter doesn't look like you at all? Normally, it's said that girls tend to resemble their fathers. At that, James was at a loss for words. She doesn't look like you, of course. Because you had cosmetic surgery too. How did you? When I moved out of our apartment 2 years ago, I found your high school yearbook. You were a completely different person. I was so surprised. Seeing that album, I understood why he had never introduced any friends from before university to me, why he insisted on a simple wedding with just a few colleagues from work invited. Probably, James had cosmetic surgery in university and was afraid of being exposed by his friends from that time. I don't think cosmetic surgery is bad at all, but children will resemble their original faces, so you should think it through. What should I do now? What to do? Just be a normal dad. The results are in, no doubt it's your child. With that, I hung up, blocked his number. He's really a narrow-minded man, unhappy because his child doesn't look the way he wanted. When a friend of mine, who has a child of the same age as Vivian's kid a year from now, showed me a picture of their child at the start of kindergarten, it was just adorable. It's simply that the kid doesn't resemble the current Vivian or James. However, according to my friend who has become a mom friend of Vivian, she was hoping her child would look like the post-surgery James. My friend is tired of hearing her complain every day, I shouldn't have had such a child. They really are the worst kind of couple, alike in the worst ways. And it seems James has cheated again, and my friend is now being consulted by Vivian for divorce advice. Silly James. If he ends up divorcing Vivian, he'll have to pay alimony and child support. And since Vivian is a rich girl, if she hires a competent lawyer, who knows how much she'll fleece him for. Moreover, according to a friend of mine who's become a mom friend of Vivian, Vivian's plastic surgery is known even to the local kids, and I hear her daughter is being ostracized at kindergarten with comments like, "Your mom was ugly before, huh?" It's a relief that Vivian's parents are doting on her, but it's truly pitiable for the child. Well, it's none of my business. I managed to rent an apartment in a convenient location for commuting. Being closer, I can do the cleaning and laundry after getting home, and on my days off, I can spend the whole day on myself. I've deepened my friendship with a divorced classmate I reconnected with at the reunion, and I'm living a leisurely, enjoyable life.